Hi class, I'm going to show you a few examples from section 1.3. This is multiplying and dividing integers. Okay, so the multiplying and dividing rules for integers are pretty straightforward. These rules only apply to when you're working with two numbers at a time. And if those two numbers are both positive or both negative, the product will be positive. If you're working with two numbers where you have one is positive and the other one is negative, the answer is negative. So let's practice that. -6 times +5. 6 times 5 is 30, but because one was negative and one is positive, the answer is -30. Okay, next it says find the product of -50 times -4. Both of these numbers are negative, and so 50 times 4 is 200 because a negative times a negative is a positive. Okay, this one is find the product of 8 times -4 times -1. I want to caution you on problems like this because at first look you could guess this answer is -32 because there's one positive 8 and the other two are negative and the signs are opposite, and so it has to be a -32. Well, that would be incorrect. And it's because these integer rules, you can only work them two numbers at a time. So let me show you what I'm talking about. Let's first take the +8 times the -4, and yes, that is a -32. Next, take the -32 and multiply it by the third number, which is -1. That's a negative times a negative, so the final answer ends up being a +32. Okay, this problem says perform the division if possible. If an answer is undefined, enter the word undefined. So when you're dividing, if you're ever dividing by a 0, that's when you need to put undefined. So if the denominator of a fraction is 0, or if you're dividing by a 0. Okay, this is +54 divided by -9, which is 6, but because one is positive and the other is negative, this will be a -6. Okay, -63 divided by -9, that is a 7, and yes, it is a negative divided by negative, so it will stay +7. Okay, and there's one more thing I want to show you on this video. It's about the concept of prime factorization. Basically, prime factorization is taking a number and rewriting it as a multiplication problem, but only using prime numbers. So do you remember from elementary school prime numbers and composite numbers? Prime numbers are those numbers where only one in itself divides evenly into it. For example, 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, and so forth. Okay, so we're going to take the number, in this example, 525, and rewrite it as a multiplication problem, but only using prime numbers. The easiest way to do this is to make a factor tree. Starting with 525, we're going to think of a multiplication problem that equals 525. So I know that 5 times 105 is 525. 5 is a prime number. 105 is not. So I'm going to bring 5, I extended a diagonal line down to the bottom. Next, I'm going to focus in on 105 and rewrite that as a multiplication problem. The first thing I can think of. It doesn't necessarily have to be prime right now. Let's see. 5 times 21 is 105. Okay, so I have another prime number. I'm going to take it down to the bottom row. 21 is not a prime number, so we need to keep going. 7 times 3 is 21, and 7 and 3 are prime numbers. So this bottom row, 5 times 5 times 7 times 3, those are all prime numbers, and that's the answer to this question. Now you're going to have to enter these numbers in WebAssign, making sure that you put a multiplication symbol in between each number, but the numbers can go in any order. That's it for now. Let me know if you have any questions on this homework.